Brandy, you're back. How are you?
I'm back. I'm doing so good. How are you?
Good. Every time I get to say that, it makes me happy. Like, Brandy's back.
We're back, and we have food, as per usual.
I was, as per you. Thank you, Tazo, right? Tazo Sandwich Shop.
Yes.
I should take a quick
This is insane. So I grabbed us my favorite sandwich on their menu, which I literally would eat this every single meal of my life if I could. It is the turkey melt. So it has like feta, and I put pickled onions on it every time because I love it. Yes. And it has like spicy jalapenos and all the goodies and an apple slaw. And then she hooked it up with this salmon potato salad. She makes 25 pounds and sells out every week. Like, she makes it 4 out of the 5 days she's open. That's how good it is. Okay.
Hell yeah. Take a bite.
Okay.
I'll cut a scene where we're shooting.
Okay. It's going to become a meme of some sort.
Because you're not a very big person.
Ah.
Oh my God. That burrito shot was so hilarious.
I loved
Shout out
it.
Spitfire Taco. That was hilarious.
That was so fun.
So what I was telling you right before we started, you eat. Before you came, I was working on just finishing up a slide deck because I'm going to Utah next week to do a workshop for this national level conference and association, because people are really struggling with how to communicate online, right? Like the average consumer knows how to just, post things on Instagram. But when you're looking for real functional communication mechanisms that, say, like a state level department or large association could use to effectively communicate, not just be like, oh my God, so happy we're at this conference, but like, hey, let me give you some information.
Yeah, here's
science information, policy information. One of the big keys is consistency, right? Because it's like, okay, is it effective? Is it worth your time? And then how do you actually do it? And man, consistency is one of those pieces where if you're in it only when it's fun, right? Like it's the same thing as thing as a podcast. People start podcasts. The average podcast only lasts about 6 episodes, right? Because you do your first one and it's this all day affair, or it takes you like longer than all day. I don't know, whatever you're doing. And you're super pumped and you're like tons of excitement because you were telling people you were going to do it beforehand. You're playing it all out, the whole bit. You do it and then you send it to everyone you know, and people are curious. They're like, okay, what's this? They click on it and you get like 100 views or whatever. Okay. And you're super pumped about it. And then the next one you do, you send out and you only get like 50 views. And people, you see your friend in the coffee shop. This actually happened to me, right when I started, like, hey, did you get that link I sent you? And my buddy Scott was like, yeah, I did. Yeah, I haven't. I'm gonna watch that. Like, it was great. I'm like, yeah, watch it. And then you do the 3rd episode, knowing that you only got like 5 more people to watch it. So it's like 55 people. You do the 3rd episode and you're already kind of annoyed. Yeah. And you're down to like 25 people watched it. And then by the time you hit like 4th, 5th, and 6th, you're just kind of like, why am I even doing this? And for most people, by the time they hit the 6th, they don't even want to be doing it because they were in it for the like, oh, everybody watched.
Right.
And that's really important to recognize, which is, look, you can't start social media communication with the expectation that you're going to do it as long as it's fun. Right? Like, that's like, I'm only going to send out a newsletter. Fun. Right. Like the fun is gone.
10 minutes.
Yeah. And that's I was actually pulling up some stats. It's like the average person thinks it's really fun for a few weeks. It's like, oh, this is a picture of my lunch. Yeah. Say you don't know much about Instagram and you want to start an Instagram account. Okay. And it's just like you and, like what you think about your life and what you're doing. You can keep up a concerted effort while it's still fun for like 1 or 2 months. Okay. And then once you're done at that 2-month mark, most of the time, the average consumer is like, this isn't that fun, right? Like it takes more than enjoyment to keep people going. And if you look at any other form of communication, like corporate communication, that's not how they work with communication. They do communication with like, we're setting up a newsletter. We're hiring a team or a person to like be in charge of this newsletter, or we have an existing employee that's going to take like a day or 2 per week and deal with this news, whatever the newsletter is. Right. And that's what you do. And it's not this crazy fun thing. It has to portray something fun, right? Comedic, emotional, but it's a very like unemotional process of consistently doing things. And if you're lucky, you have somebody like Brandy that brings you sandwiches and you get to enjoy, this time. So like, I'm running around like crazy today, but like, I wouldn't miss this for the world because this is the fun part. Like, this is the joy in like, okay, you're grinding through, you're up at 5 a.m. doing these things. And for like 45 minutes, you get to hang with Brandy. So
I am honored, Matt.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Here's to
Thank
you,
you.
girl.
Thank you for that. I think
'Cause
something.
You know what? This is the way.
The Mandalorian.
This is the way.
Oh, I love that cup.
I love it.
We watched the entirety of The Mandalorian.
So great.
It was beautifully written. Beautifully written. So you had mentioned the longevity of people working in social media.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was very intriguing to me because it makes me really rethink how my brain functions, because I think I gamified this whole thing because I was determined when I first took over the social. We had like 250 followers.
Right.
That was it.
For the chamber.
And it was in 2019, the end of 19, because it was right before COVID hit. And then we suddenly could not have in-person events and everybody's freaking out. And they were like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, well, we can go on social media and we can try. And they're like, okay, well, whatever you want to do here, you can do it. But like, figure it out, I guess. Right. Like, so we ended before I stepped away from the chamber the first time I had left, which I had a 4-month-old baby and a 5-year-old little boy, and we were homeschooling. So naturally, life was busy. I'd gotten up to 1,200 followers. And mind you, we're this little chamber that could.
Right. 3x growth.
Yes. We went and just kind of paved the way for what does social media look like in this realm, because nobody else was doing social media at the time. And I was like, well, we're going to take advantage of the fact that like, this is free. Right. You guys have me. I have time. Like, let's figure it out. I was very pregnant on video a lot. I look back at those videos and I'm kind of appalled at the quality and at myself, and I get icked.
You need to love yourself. You need to love yourself. You need to love who you were.
Yes.
You need to love you and your baby.
I was going through a transition phase in my life. I just feel like I was growing into like my confidence was blooming in what I was doing and that I was you could do this.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, always nervous. But I think for me, the longevity only comes with being able to watch the community interact.
Right.
I wasn't sitting here doing this alone. I had a community of people commenting on posts or liking something. And if 2 people liked it, hey, I just made a difference in 2 people's lives. 2 people got more information.
You got to take your tiny win.
I took the wins. And I think that's the only thing that propelled me outside of my own internal angst and determined to prove to everybody that I could. Because I'm a crazy person. So.
Right. And it's really, I'm taking down a content playbook, right? Or trying to articulate it to these people. And one of the pieces of it, once you really dig into the nitty gritty, is you have there's no real clear sense of like, okay, what is social media content, right? Like that's not flying around. But in reality, there are like 15 different content styles. For instance, one of them could be knock jokes. Right. And I know that seems ridiculous, but you could do like knock joke cartoons where you get ChatGPT just to make their own knock joke around or like do comedy skits, right? You play out comedy skits. Right. You can do all kinds of things. You can do IP capture where it's essentially a React video where you're watching it and then you make commentary on it.
Like a documentary style of your day.
A really big one that has come up that's incredibly entertaining is like dubbing over things. So you watch, there's a video that goes viral that's like disgusting street food, right? Yes. And then you have somebody dub over it that's comedic and has great timing. The burden of coming up with the original video is not theirs. They just grab one and then they just talk over it. Like, so you have all these different things. And when you're dealing with departments, you got to explain like, okay, look, this is the menu, right? What do you guys want? Pick the clips or the styles that you want. This part of the consistency, like pick the style you want. And then let's figure out what the production looks like around building that style. Yes. And then you have these things that you put out. But it's, you and I had to go through the pain of learning different content styles. And most people find one and they just stick with that one. They're like, this is my thing. I'm going to stick with this thing. And that's it. But there's value in understanding, all right, yeah, this is the thing that works for me, but what are all the things? And what would success look like in all of these different, like, I had a friend who's a realtor and I really wanted to do a mini series with her where you essentially do lowbrow green screen. Okay. So it's like the green screen and you're in an office or something. The production absolutely does not have to be high, but you write out scripts for different characters that you occupy. And it becomes like a lightweight Seinfeld episode where it's like a show about nothing, but you're embodying market forces. You have different, like you're playing the buyer, you're playing the seller, you're playing the loan agent. Yes. So it's like the loan agent.
And they wear different hats and
the whole thing. You get dressed up differently and you just play out this series and the characters themselves start to have different personas and everything. And
backstories.
Backstory's the whole thing. Yes. And people can do those and it doesn't take that much money. It takes thought.
Yes.
Right. It takes thought and it takes time and it takes writing, but that's part of the consistency,
Yes.
right? Like you just have to, even if you only do like one of those a week or like 2 of those a week, you do that, you bring value to people's life in that way. And that's where you get a buildup. Can I tell you something? I'm really excited. You brought up pregnancy. I just had a conversation. I did a second episode with Dr. Kyle Tobler from, I think like the Boise Fertilization Reproductive Clinic. And I picked him at the end. I was like, listen, what if we did like the holy grail of fertilization videos or series where we get your experts from your fertilization clinic and we do like, you know, all of the steps for younger people, for slightly older people, all of the steps for, you know, different things you can do to increase probability without intervention, what intervention looks like, how much it, like all of these, the conversation you
like
want to
the
have.
Did You Know kind of series.
Yes, but more of like a broader conversation that they can deliver to potential clients or that people could find where it's like, here are the fertilization experts of Idaho having these conversations. Like, okay, one couple, they're in their 20s. They want to have kids. What would you tell them? Right. And then you go through all this. He was going through talking about how he meets with some people that are in arranged marriages that just are not going to be sleeping with each other. They're like, no, we're not going to actually do that. So, you know, but like we want a kid and we want it to be our genetic material. What do we do? Right. And he's like, okay, well, okay, so that's off the table. So then like, these are the steps. Like, okay, great. Like we'll do that. Like, wow. Or couples that come in, because I was like, what can people do? Is it like eating pineapple? Is it like, what are their steps? And he's like, well, look, honestly, he's like, there's one thing you absolutely got to do if you want to have a kid naturally. Like, and what you find out is that people get very sensitive about that because that for whatever reason, that relationship is not conducive to that. And they're like trying to skirt the issue. And it's like, no. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to sleep together if you want to have a baby together with natural inception. Like that's just the way it goes.
Right.
And that could be setting up a schedule. It could be, you know, whatever it might be. But I think that pregnancy is hard and it's harder for a lot of people in the nation. And I think having a collection, an awesome pregnancy series, like Making a Family series that could then live like on the ranch website. So then people come, they're like, oh, here's the like, oh my gosh, my friend has been struggling. Let me ask you this. How long do you think you have to be trying before he's even remotely interested in talking to you about intervention?
I would say on the younger side, probably 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, he said well over a year.
Yeah.
He was like well over a year, like 18 months.
You don't start a conversation until you've been trying for a solid year to 2 years. We have friends that they worked on it for 5 years. Wow. And now they have 2 beautiful little kids out of it. And, you know, it's great to see that they had these opportunities later, but they worked really hard at it. And I was very fortunate. Like, I thought about children and then there they were. They popped. I mean, like the stork brought them, obviously.
You're Hispanic though, right?
I'm Swedish, Spanish, and French.
See? There you go. I don't know if Spanish means Hispanic, but I'm Mexican. I'm like, I didn't have a problem. Like, that's no problem.
I feel like there's 2 people that go into the situations though. So you have the genetic composition of 2 different people and coming from different, like, the heritage alone. You think, okay, so I think back to, they've done a lot of research on people who come from the potato farmers and the famine back in Ireland. And they're finding that their genetic composition shows signs of their makeup remembering potato famine in the way their body digests, in their way their body holds onto fat and stores things. Yeah, it's very intriguing what they're doing in genetic composition now versus what we would have known 10, 15 years ago. So that was my little side quest. Thinking back, though, you had mentioned the gal who is doing the realtor, like you were talking about the back and forth. I think that is so intriguing because when you find so I always think back to your brand. What is your brand? Who are you in your values? Who are you in like how you communicate with your public? And
why would anybody watch this?
Yes.
If you can't articulate what the value proposition is for somebody watching this, nobody's going to watch it.
Well, and
why
be
would they watch it?
Yes. They want genuine and authentic.
Yes.
So that is, I think, where like I'm able to just dive into things because I'm like, I know what our voice is. I know what our brand is. We are playful and funny and truthful and authentic. And this is just who we are. Right. So whatever we do in the realm of social media has to go around that. Right. Or it has to be like giving information on our pillars.
Right.
So I think it's really intriguing. I love these social media conversations because when you can be true and authentic to your brand, you're going to find so much more success than if you're just trying to do what's viral that week.
Right. Right. I could not agree with you
Yeah.
more. And I think that's what a lot of people do. They end up like chasing the dragon.
Yes.
Right? So something goes viral. Do you remember like
the TikTok dances? Everybody did them.
What was that one in 2019 or 2021? The Make My Money Jiggle. Money don't fold.
Yes.
That rap
Okay,
song?
yes.
Yeah, I did rap recently on a thing. It was like, my money don't jiggle.
Yes.
Jiggle. You know, and then everybody did the like dance around. Everybody jumped on that. And in doing that, like you can get, let's be clear, if you're an attractive woman and you just do whatever the trending audio is, like you got a shot. Like there are not a lot of like really, really good looking guys that are doing like dance alongs.
Yeah.
Like that's just not a thing. I have seen some like husband and wife couples.
Yes.
But they're like husband and wife couple and they're goofy. They have their dynamic together. Right. But the reality is like, what are you then? You're whatever is trending then. If that's your value set, then you're not really anything but what everybody wants, right? You don't have anything you necessarily stand for. Like that's a thing. That's a problem. And you're never going to be able to get valuable messaging or communication across. You will be able to get attention, but there's no actual value. Attention's totally different than communication, right? And again, I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. They said like, you want to know why?
Obviously.
One of the best reasons people quit social media, it's not always this way, but one of the classic ways is they don't quit when they don't have success. They quit when they finally get success. And you can quit when you get success for two reasons. But focusing on one specifically, you quit when something's successful that you thought wasn't supposed to be. And then all of the effort you've been putting into the other stuff that you really tried hard for didn't work.
You mean like my pinto beans? The video about my pinto beans? Yes, I know that feeling. But I didn't allow myself to quit, for the record. But that's so telling, though, because you get like this, you're thwarted with the realization that everything you've been doing isn't working and this stupid thing suddenly works and you just want to bang your head against a wall.
I had a friend who's a very professional businesswoman, very successful, and she was just going down the route of starting to build, Instagram account.
Okay.
And she was making all this great content and like really putting thought into it, thought leadership, trying to spur conversations. She was, again, really good stuff. I ended up seeing some of her clips and calling her. I'm like, hey, wait, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. It drove me to call her, right? Like, so we had these so she was making cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then she videotapes her husband painting a part of their house and it gets like 100,000 views. And her other stuff that I liked was only getting like 150. And she called me one day. She's like, I have learned that this is all a charade. Like it's all a because she's like, this doesn't have anything to do with my professional engagement. And it took off. And here she had invested all this time and maybe in some total, she had like 2,000 views and then it was like 100,000 views. And she was like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
And like I think people have those feelings, but I heard Jordan Peterson say something a long time ago. And he was like, listen, I had been making the videos. He had been making his lecture videos for a long time before there was the thing that ultimately made him famous, which is fighting back the Canadian government about, pronouns. He had been making these videos for a long time. And he's like, people came to the platform for the controversy, but then they stayed for the content. So it's like, listen, the fact that you hit really hard with something that wasn't your intent shouldn't dissuade you. You should realize there's a variety of things that people like and to keep plugging away with the valuable thing. Because how many people came from that video that took off that you weren't expecting and stayed for your other stuff? Like there's probably at least a few. Well, it matters to those few and just keep going.
Right. Well, and they always talk about how no publicity is bad publicity, right? That used to be the phrase back in the day. Now people are very careful on how they go about it and they never want something bad in the media. I've always been in the other camp of like, you know what? Our name gets out there. We can, we had a big thing, the Christmas tree lighting. where I went and filmed the Christmas tree lighting live at the whole thing. And I had people find my personal Facebook page and tell me I was killing the community and tell horrific things. I mean, the mouths on these people are horrendous. So the fact that like that could have been an issue when we could have let it just thwart everything we were doing. And we're like, no, we're going to take a stand. We got interviewed on KTVB. It was, they did cut certain pieces out.
KTVB loves me, by the way.
I know. You are a safe place, Matt. I believe in you.
You know what I really want to make? I want to make that meme from Pirates of the Caribbean where the guy's like, you have got to be the worst pirate I've ever heard of. He's like, but you have heard of me. And I want to put Brian Holmes' face on it. And then, but you have heard of me. This is the worst podcast I've ever heard of. But you heard of me. But you heard it.
Oh my gosh. That would be amazing. And then we could have shirts. But you've heard of me.
But you've heard of me. Yeah, I'm not doing that. But yeah, like, so again, you took some heat, but you have a value set.
Yes.
And if you just stop when people give you heat, then it's like, okay, so you were only doing this
until it got hard.
At the pleasure of other people. Like you don't actually view yourself as somebody who has autonomy. You're only doing it till somebody says you can't do this anymore. And then you fold. It's like, that can't be it.
And it's also allowing somebody at that point to bully. And that's also not okay in my book. It was, we didn't do anything crazy or radical. We took a stand and gave our side of the story, and then we trudged on. And there was going to be people that didn't like us, but there was also people that were going to be like, oh, I didn't know the chamber existed until that video came out, and I saw it on KTVB or this and that. So you know what? I take the good with the bad.
And then they come for your content. They come for your value
and they figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, it's radical, man. The world of social media, you are going to have to talk about this at that luncheon we were talking about. So I'm going to get you on the books
I'm
because
really
this is such good things for, I think, business owners and people in content development to know. And I don't think the majority of us think through it in that capacity.
Yeah. So for instance, there was a gal I met at one of the chamber events who's a window washer.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the playbook, so I have a content playbook, right? Like that's kind of the point. It's like my intellectual property. But one of the pieces is understanding that like content is not content, right? So like you could have somebody who's trying to be like a fitness influencer and the style of content that would work for that person is not going to work for the window washer. Right. I do thought leadership and like talking head content that would not work for, let's say the fashion influencer, right? Because fashion influencers, you got to show, you don't tell, right? All of these different types of things, but there's a type of OCD and dual immersion with window washing that would work very, very well, where you get this like rhythmic OCD. You know who does the slow motion and aesthetic really well is Sea Salt Creamery and Star.
Yes.
They have the slow motion clips and they have like the jump clips and they have really good videography. Now, again, this is just pictures of ice cream. Right. So you have to do something that makes people want to engage in it. And the same thing with window washing. It's like you have a content style. Like there's a content method that you could engage in. It's not it wouldn't work for my podcast, but there is something for you and understanding, okay, what is it that we want to express? Who are we talking to? Why are they watching this? They watch it because it's like scratch the OCD itch. And then like you see how clean those windows are. And then like you start.
It's enticing.
Yeah. And if you have dirty windows, you're like, oh my God. And you just, all of a sudden it's like, and there's something for everyone, whoever the business is within the Eagle Chamber in Eagle. It's like, look, there are types of content. It's understanding the playbook and which play to engage in, and then hitting the other aspects of it with consistency and whatnot. Like there are just ways to do it. Then I think people just get discouraged because they try to stumble through and figure out ways. They try to be like, I'm Matt with the window washing company and we are window washing. It's like, don't ever introduce yourself on social media. And I've broken that rule a couple times. But
I break it all the time.
Like, just being like, I'm Matt, don't do that. Like in general, it doesn't work for like small informational things maybe, but.
No, they usually are like, oh, she's back. Flip.
Yeah, but people just need to understand like there's a path forward for social media.
But also understanding what their audience is, who their audience is, and what are the things my audience actually watches? Because if your target demographic is seniors, they're not going to watch the same content that Gen Z is watching. You know what I mean? Like we have to also understand who are we trying to reach and what's the best way to reach them with a message. Now you can put your own spin on that message and how it's viewed, but I feel like understanding that piece as well is pivotal to finding the success where you're trying to find it.
Right.
Like if you're a renter living in a house, you're not necessarily going to be the one calling on the window washers, right? So you want to target homeowners. Well, okay, what are homeowners doing? They're probably working during the day. They probably have a lunch break. So thinking through times in which to post, you have to really look, what is my niche? What are active times on my social media that work well for my posting?
Right.
I just feel like there's so many variables to consider.
Sure. Or give a tenant discount. Because then you get the tenants to put pressure on the landlord.
Look at us.
Look at us.
Just hire us. Matt and Brandy.
I mean, we got to say something valuable for the community now and then besides just eating awesome food and drinking coffee. By the way, I went to Form and Function again this morning. Like their oat milk vanilla latte.
Yes. It just hits the spot.
And dude, check this. So I get a coffee and I was like, oh, can I get a splash of oat milk? And the gal says, yeah, sure. And she comes up with the coffee later and she's like, do you want me to steam this? I'm like, steam the oat milk? She's like, yeah, you don't want to cool down your coffee. I was like, lady,
you just won yourself a tip.
You just won your home mug. I'm like, yeah, I know. And then we got into this big conversation about thickness of coffee cup mugs and depth of them, like to make sure you pour the coffee. And I was like, I actually pre-charge my coffee mug, so the coffee mug's hot. And yeah, and she was like, she was right there, man. Like she had it.
Was she a taller lady?
Yes.
With long hair?
Yes.
I love her. We got into
Who is she?
I don't know. We got an amazing conversation about homeschooling. She homeschooled her kids because I had come in with the boys probably after we were recording one day.
Sure.
Oh no. It was after I got a facial at V's Skincare and Laser. Shout out to V's. She's the one that gave me that amazing spray tan. I went and got a custom facial from her, which, by the way, I apparently have really dry skin, which we figured out how to deal with. But amazing. Like, shout out to her because it was exceptional and it was the most relaxed I've been in like 20 years. But we went to Form and Function and we had this beautiful conversation how she homeschooled her kids and just finding out a little of her life. And she's so personable. So whoever she is needs a raise.
Whoever she
we need to be friends with her.
We need to be friends with her.
I love that.
We need to go in and just be
and we need to bring the podcast mics.
Yes, we should do that.
Yes.
I met the owner. I think his name was Sam.
Yeah, and his wife is Kate.
Yeah, I was leaving and I was like, hey man, I was with Brandy. We did this thing with your drink. Like I just wanted to introduce myself. He's like, oh great. I had to go. Yeah, dude, I should invite him on. I should invite him on and just be like, dude, come in, talk to me about making coffee.
Oh
like,
yeah, they're
slinging
cool.
some caffeine.
They're cool family. So that would be really neat to hear their story.
Great.
Absolutely.
Brandy, look, we got to go.
We do.
It was a quick one today. God bless you, woman. I always love having you. Thank you, Tazo, for the sandwiches and the salads. Super good. Let's start dropping more episodes about strategies for individual businesses.
I like that.
Right? Like I'd even be happy to get into like a little bit of the nitty gritty with like content creation and things like that. But like, let's just arm the community as best as possible with
Love that.
stuff.
Our business owners would love that. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, Brandy.
Thanks.